Families have a lot going on. Let Ollie help manage the mental load with new cognitive help supplements for everyone 4 and up, like delicious Lolly Focus Pops or Lolly Mellow Pops for kids. And for parents, try 3 new Brainy Chews to help you focus, chill out, or get energized. Find these cognitive health buddies for the whole fam at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Pulling up to Mickey D's just for drinks? Oh yeah, that's me. Nothing extra, just perfection and a straw. Coming in hot for the coldest cups on the block. Because there are drinks. Then there are drinks from McDonald's.
Ever combine an ice-cold frozen Coke with piping hot fries? Try frozen drinks any size for $1.49. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Zach Shrewsbury has spent the last 6 months on the road.
Right now, I am in Princeton, West Virginia.
Almost everything I've read about you talks about how you are trying to get to all 55 counties in West Virginia.
Yes.
Did you make it?
We're about to accomplish that today, actually. We have 2 more to hit, and we're going to do it today.
Zach is running for Senate. He's running for Joe Manchin's old seat, actually. A seat that just about everyone assumes is about to flip to the GOP, potentially taking the entire upper chamber with it. But Zach, he's a Democrat, and he is crisscrossing his state to spread what he calls his angry, hopeful message. It goes like this.
We are ignored, and it's ridiculous. We're an extraction state. You know, people come here, they pay us crap, they take the resources, and they leave us to clean up the pollution and the poison water.
To call Zach Shrewsbury's run for the Senate grassroots would be an understatement. His campaign is modeled after his work in mutual aid. When he rolls into a new town, he does stuff like give out Narcan and bottled water. Sometimes he goes door to door. If he's lucky, he gives a little speech. When he talks, he lays out a very progressive agenda: universal health care, alternative energy, reproductive rights. Zach says his toughest conversations happen when there's a crowd, like this one time in Pendleton County. There were maybe 50 people gathered around to listen to him, and they asked about immigration.
One guy stood up, he's like, they're taking all of our jobs. It's like, where? Where? Here in this town? Illegal immigrants are taking your jobs in this town. And then they're like, well, no. I'm like, exactly. One, there's no jobs to begin with. So let's calm down for a second. Let's really think about what we're saying. Like, I also end it with people coming here across that border. You're a lot closer to them than you are to any rich person. And that kind of hits people hard. I'm like, you're closer to being them any day of the week than you are to being a multimillionaire.
Damn. Voters are about to learn whether this rhetorical tough love actually worked. Because today is primary day. Yeah, what are your DMs like right now?
Oh, God. Everything. It's a mix of excited people who hate me, and people asking questions.
You know, a political scientist at West Virginia University called your election a fall on your sword moment for Democrats, meaning no Democrat had a real chance of winning Joe Manchin's old seat. So, are you about to fall on your sword?
That's not the plan. I think anyone else, yeah, that's the problem. If you run as a moderate Democrat in this election, you're absolutely not going to make it. If you run as Joe Manchin light, you will not make it.
Today on the show, an unlikely candidate takes on coal country. I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you're driving, cooking, or doing laundry, Progressive knows the podcasts you listen to go best when they're bundled with another activity. Much like how their Progressive home and auto policies go best when they're bundled. Having these 2 policies together makes taking care of your insurance easier. And it could help you save, too. Customers who save by switching their home and car insurance to Progressive save nearly $800 on average. That's a whole lot of savings and protection for your favorite podcast listening activities, like going on a road trip, cooking dinner, or even hitting the home gym. Yep, your home and your car are even easier to protect when you bundle your insurance together. Find your perfect combo. Get a home and car insurance quote at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $793 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2021 and May 2022. Potential savings will vary.
It's hard to imagine a world where we leave future generations with fewer rights and freedoms. The Supreme Court has stolen the constitutional right to control our bodies. Now, politicians in nearly every state have introduced bills that would block people from getting the essential sexual and reproductive care they need, including abortion. Planned Parenthood believes everyone deserves access to care. It's a human right. We won't give up, and we won't back down. Help ensure the next generation can decide their own futures. Donate to Planned Parenthood. Visit plannedparenthood.org/future.
So, Zach, you announced your campaign back in October. And at the time, Joe Manchin had not yet announced he was planning to leave the Senate. So your plan was to run against him.
Yes.
Taking on an incumbent Democrat, especially one who's been as important to his party as Joe Manchin, seems a little like a crazy mission to me. Why did you want to do it?
Because a lot of my organizing was around trying to get Senator Manchin to do the right thing, trying to get him to support the right bills.
Yeah, you've been in like Zoom meetings with him, right?
Yes, I've been in multiple Zoom meetings with him.
What were you trying to get him to do?
Usually support Build Back Better, support different initiatives. It was really just to the matter of no amount of talks would get you anywhere. It never mattered. You can talk to him all day till you're blue in the face. He'd already made up his mind. The child tax credit thing really just kind of irked me pretty bad. He voted against it. He won, and he said people were just going to use it to buy drugs. And I knew people that were using it to literally just pay their bills. And that just shows you the divide between the rich and the poor. And it just shows people are out of touch with what's going on in West Virginia.
Even people who are from West Virginia.
Yeah. I'm sure Manchin back in the day used to probably understand what was going on, but after he's been there for so long, it must, I guess he just got into his head where he just embraces that divide. You
used to be a Republican, right?
I grew up Republican.
How did you take this turn?
I grew up Republican. I didn't really discover much of what I believed until I joined the Marines, ironically, and then I started talking to people in the platoon. And they're like, "Hey, how do you feel about like gay marriage?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine with me." They're like, "Well, you're not a Republican." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But then I started looking onto the internet. I saw Occupy Wall Street. Now I remember seeing like these CEOs or whatever they are up on top of these skyscrapers, like literally like drinking their champagne and laughing at the people in tents on the ground, and that just irked me. And then I watched Capitalism: A Love Story by Michael Moore in my barracks room, and it did something to me. And then I just kind of went on an internet spiral. I've seen friends lose their houses. I've experienced hardship with my family, and it was just like it was one of those kind of an awakening moment where you saw like, man, it's across the country. It's the system itself, and then it was just kind of my whole viewpoint changed. And ever since then, I've been on the ground organizing.
After leaving the Marines, Zach eventually moved back to West Virginia. It was 2019. He was taking care of his grandmother. He was also dabbling in politics, working on the 2020 Senate campaign for Paula Jean Swearengin, another progressive Democratic candidate. She ended up losing her Senate race. I think it's interesting that you worked on this campaign and found it inspirational, because I think that a lot of people might look at her candidacy for Senate as a progressive Democrat and see it as proof that it is really hard to do what you are doing right now. Why did you see the opposite?
Well, because if you're involved in leftist politics at all, you understand that everything we do is going to be a challenge. It's going to be hard. It's never going to be easy in the world we live in. So, I mean, when you have someone like Paula who, is willing to very much kind of how I'm doing, if you're willing to look the look the powerful people right in the eye and say, I don't care who you are. What you're doing is wrong. I respect that.
Yeah. It's worth the fight, even if you might lose.
Yeah, no, it's always worth the fight. It's always pushing that, you're pushing the bar forward. You're raising that bar, pushing it forward, however you want to say it. But, every fight matters in that way.
Yeah, you launched your race for Senate at the Jefferson County Courthouse in West Virginia.
Yes.
Why did you choose that location?
Because I was did that to honor John Brown. That was the location they hung him at.
John Brown, for those who don't know, he was an abolitionist who massacred pro-slave activists.
Yes.
Why was embracing him as a kind of guiding light? Why was it important to you? And was it controversial for anyone that you were working with?
Controversial to a few people, but for me, it was because at that time, John Brown was fighting back against an evil system that was enslaving people. He very much tried to free oppressed people across America, and I respect that. I'm not trying to compare myself to John, but I'm trying to say I respect it because he basically bucked the system at a time where it was not popular to buck the system.
Yeah. I mean, it's an approach I basically cannot imagine your opponents in this Democratic primary embracing at all.
Sure. No, they won't.
Zach's got two big opponents. One is Glenn Elliott, the mayor of Wheeling, West Virginia. Elliott's been endorsed by Joe Manchin, and he says the only difference between him and Zach is style. Zach disagrees.
We don't know what Glenn Elliott's policies are outside of him being pro-choice. I mean, he doesn't talk about his policies that much. He's probably more of a Pete Buttigieg, if I say the last name correctly, more so. I'm more of a Bernie Sanders.
The other Democratic candidate in this race is Don Blankenship. He is a former coal executive, and until 2020, he was a Republican who called himself Trumpier than Trump.
Oh, well, I have nothing nice to say about Don Blankenship whatsoever. I didn't know he was going to run for as a Democrat. I'll say that. That was a surprise moment.
Zach's got another reason for being skeptical of Blankenship. Blankenship served prison time after being convicted of conspiring to violate safety laws, resulting in an explosion that killed 29 miners. The bedrock of Zach's policy platform is renewable energy.
My grandpa mined coal. He had bow-legged, black lung in his lungs. I grew up with coal mining stuff all over the house. So when I stood in front of the UMWA, I said, "Here, UMW health insurance kept my grandmother alive. Here's what my grandfather worked 30 years in the mines. But here's also what I believe. I'm big on solar, and I'm big on this transition, and I'm big on protecting working class people. So when I say I want to bring solar manufacturing jobs here to West Virginia, we need to get that ball rolling now to have them built here, and then we give them the few thousand miners we have left, give them first come to those jobs, same wages, same benefits, free training. UMWA could be the union that makes them union jobs in those industries and start building solar here."
Do people believe you?
I'm being real. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a suit and tie kicking the can. And people are very much afraid to say that here. They're afraid to challenge the coal industry.
Well, it involves a loss. It involves a loss and a risk. And I just imagine that's challenging for some people, to think this is the industry that supported us for X number of years.
But it's not, though. That's the thing. The industry is collapsing more and more. Private companies come here, they'll employ you for a few months, and then we're done with you. They lay you off and they leave. The miners here will work for 6 months and they'll be laid off for 6 months. You can't live like that. It's one of those things where, the industry keeps trying to keep itself alive because it makes money. Where I'm trying to say, coal's going to die no matter what. It's been going away for decades. It's been a life sport for a long time. And no matter what legislation you put in place, or Democrat or Republican, it's not going to be here in probably 20 years, 30 years. And I want to see something else in place to ensure that West Virginia has the ability to have an economy at this point. Right now, our economy is tourism and minimum wage jobs. I think Walmart's our biggest employer right now. So it's not coal keeping us alive. It's retail jobs and tourism. But coal is a cultural factor here, a big cultural factor. And for me, as we can become an economic powerhouse if we can just embrace building solar here.
We'll be back after a quick break.
This episode is brought to you by Discover. When it comes to your finances, Discover wants you to know they are the credit card that is always there for you. With 24/7 U.S.-based live customer service, everyone has the option to talk to a real person anytime, day or night. Yep, that means no more waiting for, quote, normal business hours just to get a hold of someone. We are talking real service from real people whenever you need it. Get the customer service you deserve with Discover. Limitations apply. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Hi, this is Dahlia Lithwick, host of Slate's legal podcast, Amicus. If you're listening to this show, you might be interested in Amicus's live show that we're hosting in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, May the 14th. My colleague, Mark Joseph Stern, and I will be talking to some amazing guests, including Sherilyn Ifill and a sitting state Supreme Court justice, all about how originalism, a relatively recently invented way of interpreting the Constitution, has taken over the Supreme Court and radically reshaped the law. It's been doctrinal rocket fuel for the conservative legal movement and facilitated the rolling back of abortion rights, the expansion of gun rights, and the obliteration of the separation of church and state. And as another wildly consequential Supreme Court term careers to its end, the court's originalists are on a tear. But there's something you can do about it, and we hope you'll join us in D.C. on May 14th to explore the possible pathways out of the current situation. Go to slate.com/Amicus Live for tickets.
You know, I've seen a couple of interesting questions about your campaign and its approach.
Mm-hmm.
One criticism I'm hoping we can talk about is about how what you want to do, like you talk about creating clean energy jobs, protecting reproductive rights, increasing union power. It's stuff that actually needs to be fixed at the state level in West Virginia, not in Washington. Like, just as an example, this year, Governor Jim Justice vetoed a measure that would have expanded the size of solar plants in your state, which makes creating more clean energy jobs harder.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that criticism, that going to Washington actually isn't going to fix the things you want to fix?
Because with this, I can shed the light on all the problems in West Virginia, and I can force those conversations. I can put the pressure on these state legislators or state legislators who don't do anything. You know, for me, it's multi-pronged. You know, I'm going for the win, but even if I'm taken down before then, I've still won. If I can help people and shed lights on problems here and apply political pressure on state level on these state politicians, then it's a win for me. Well, I couldn't do that running at a local level. We all know it's going to be a hard battle, and I do think I can pull it off if I do it every day. But while I'm doing that, I'm also ensuring that I'm moving that bar with me on different levels where I can say, look, here's what's happening. Here's what's going on. Here's the people that are tackling that problem. They need the support. This person's not doing anything. And the more, the more attention, the more power you gain, the better off you can make your state.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the Senate, the place you're running to join, is kind of a notoriously unaggressive place. Like, it's all about compromise. Like, just one example of Senate decorum is the filibuster rule, which, you know, dictates that legislation needs to have more than a simple majority to pass. Joe Manchin, who's been the senator for West Virginia, whose seat you're running to fill, he's been a staunch defender of the filibuster. I imagine you see that very differently.
Yeah, I've fought against the filibuster in front of his office.
His take is that it maintains his power to have the filibuster. It maintains West Virginia's power to have the filibuster because you're a state that has less power theoretically.
It maintains his ability to fight for coal corporations, in my personal opinion. But the filibuster itself is what is it's based in Jim Crow. If I remember correctly, maybe before that. And at this point, the filibuster is just used as the way to just hold up legislation when you have the votes, or you could have the votes. So, I mean, the filibuster to me is archaic, and I'd be fine with it if it would would go away.
You are running for Joe Manchin's Senate seat as a progressive Democrat in a state that has been becoming progressively redder for 30 years. Why do you think you have a shot?
Because it's not necessarily a Republican-held state. It's a state of desperation. Because if you look back at 2016, Bernie Sanders outpolled Trump in all the counties here, except for like maybe one. He beat Trump. If he was the nominee, he would have taken West Virginia. But instead he wasn't, so they went with Trump.
I want to push back on that a little bit, just by like looking at the registration of voters in your state. Like the Democratic registration in West Virginia has dropped 38% since April 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans have seen a 27% increase.
Sure.
Looking at those numbers and running as a Democrat, that just seems tough.
Because people don't vote party lines here. You have to give people something different. They will vote party lines if they don't have any choice. And for the longest time, West Virginia has not had a choice. We've had Joe Manchin, Shelley Moore Capito, and Jim Justice.
Those are your senators and your governor.
Yeah. West Virginia, if you're going to look at it from an outside perspective, you have to be here to understand politics here it's much more complex than what you think it is. People here will vote outside party lines if they believe in that person. Put me in a room full of Republicans with probably I'll say with one of the governor candidates, I could probably win half that room over to me, because people just want someone who's a genuine person, who's not just playing the song and dance game with them.
It sounds like actually your primary feels really hard. Like you would like it if those Republicans could vote for you in the primary, but they can't.
Well, I've resonated very heavily with Democrats too. I mean, Democrats also like this messaging. People are tired of the same old. You know, West Virginia doesn't want to be continuously associated with Joe Manchin.
Do you see signs that you've convinced non-voters to turn out?
Yes. I have multiple people. Well, they'll tell me, or I have multiple people messaging me on my Facebook page saying that, hey, I've never voted before, but I just took my whole family to vote for you. Or you've inspired me to vote for the first time in my life. Or you're the first Democrat I vote. Or you're the first time I want to vote for a Democrat. I've had Republicans send me money and say, I've never donated to a Democrat before, but I really like your message. Here's $50. Yeah, there's a lot of hope out there. You know, a lot of people are inspired by it. We've inspired 3 Democratic executive committees on the county level to reemerge, so to speak. As in, like, the Democratic executive committee of those counties have gone, I'm not going to say dead, but they're, what's the word for it?
Dormant.
Yes, dormant. They're dormant. Now this campaign, we've gotten people, you know, they're reinvigorated. They're fired up. That's a big deal, you know, in West Virginia. That means there's a comeback. There's a mild comeback already. That's what I'm talking about by moving that bar. There's all these small victories that this type of race can cause that can have long-term effects.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're talking about when you're talking about like win or lose. It's creating the space.
Yeah.
I'm curious how the National Democratic Party has responded to your campaign so far.
Well, I've been in touch with a few DNC people. The rest we haven't heard from anybody officially. It's been very quiet. DNC's probably written off West Virginia very much. I know that article came out like a month or 2 ago where Chuck Schumer was trying to get Manchin to run as an independent for Senate. So that tells you right there they have zero faith in myself or Glenn.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens after this primary election.
It will be.
I'm curious how you anticipate that changing or not. Whether you think there'll still be this hanging back.
I think there might be some investment into West Virginia from DNC just to try to keep it. Right now, I've done very well with fundraising. I'm all grassroots. We've outraised both of my opponents, and I've devised my campaign to operate very independently. We don't depend on DNC or the state party whatsoever. That way, we can always, you know, we don't depend on them. We are our own little powerhouse to keep going.
It's true. Zach has outraised his Democratic rivals, but he's far behind the leading Republican, Governor Jim Justice. Justice has years of experience and name recognition under his belt. He's even got a mascot of a sort, his English bulldog, known as Baby Dog. I asked Zach, if he wins this primary today, how does he plan to take on the governor come November?
Keep drawing that compare and contrast of who I am and who he is. I've been saying Jim Justice is the company store, and I'm the working man. Yeah. How long is West Virginia going to keep being run by the company store when we have nothing to show for it? And Jim Justice is under a lot of attacks right now. His financial empire is collapsing. He's having a hard time right now, and I think people will notice it. Like I said, you have to have someone who will stand out from Jim Justice. I will stand out. If you put Joe Manchin against Jim Justice, what's really the difference? Two millionaires in their 70s? No one cares. Put someone with a contrast on Jim Justice that can actually be seen. That's interesting to people. People will then hear that message. Yeah, will it be hard? Absolutely. He uses that dog masterfully. It's shocking. I do have little political stickers. Fun fact: I have my cat on them. It says, and my cat's name is Blue, and it says Blue is better than baby dog. So
I'm the candidate for cat people.
Yeah, I will fight back in that way too. But ultimately, ultimately, it just comes down to West Virginians need that choice, and I'm giving that choice. And like I said, will Joe Biden take this state? Absolutely not. It's going to Donald Trump. But West Virginians will break party more often than not when it comes down to a Senate or a governor race than it will president, because it'll come down to that person that they're seeing, that popularity, that personality. That's where I say we could absolutely thread the needle on it. Believe me, it's been a one hell of a battle. Every day I'm worn out, but it is what it is. You have to do it.
Zach, I'm really grateful for your time. Thanks for coming on the show, and good luck.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Zach Shrewsbury is running for Senate in West Virginia. And that's our show. What Next is produced by Paige Osborne, Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Madeline Ducharme, and Anna Phillips. We are led by Alicia Montgomery with a little boost from Susan Matthews. Ben Richmond is the Senior Director of Podcast Operations here at Slate. And I'm Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you back here next time.